I found a hidden room in my new house. The computer inside won't stop typing about me. Alright? So this is going to sound fake as hell, but I swear every word is true. I wasn't even going to post this at first, but I can't stop thinking about it, and honestly, I need to tell someone. Even if it's just strangers on the internet, I moved into this old Victorian house about 2 weeks ago. One of those big, wraparound porch types, gorgeous in the daytime, a little too quiet at night. The place had been on the market forever. I got it cheap because the previous owner died in it and didn't have any family. The realtor made it sound like a steal, a light fixer-upper, she said, which basically meant half the outlets don't work, and the pipes scream like they're in pain every time I run the water. Still, I liked it. It had character. Old wood, built tins, those weird tiny rooms that serve no real purpose anymore. I figured I'd slowly fix it up and make it mine. Anyway, fast forward to last Friday. I was in the library, one of those little rooms with built-in shelves and a fireplace that doesn't work in packing books. I shoved a paperback into place, and the shelf shifted, like the whole thing moved. I pushed on it, and it creaked open like something out of a Scooby-Doo episode. Behind it was this narrow hallway. I know how that sounds, but I swear I had no idea it was there. It was maybe 3 feet wide, and it led to this red-painted door. The knob wasn't even dusty. Someone had used it recently. I opened it, expecting maybe storage or a weird crawl space. But inside, there was a room. Just a single, windowless room. One bare light bulb hanging from the ceiling, a metal desk, and an old computer. Like early 2000s beige desktop old, a CRT monitor was still on, glowing green. No password screen, no desktop icons, just notepad open with lines of text. The first one said, June 12th, 2025, 7:23 a.m. He misses his alarm again and blames the old pipes for keeping him awake. That was exactly what had happened to me that morning. Same time, same excuse. I scrolled down, heart starting to beat a little faster. June 13th, 2025, 11:47 p.m. He tries to laugh off the footsteps above the attic. He checks the space. Finds nothing. Goes back to bed, heartbeat audible in the dark. That happened to, but I hadn't told anyone about it. I hadn't even said it out loud. I tried to close Notepad, but the computer froze for a second, then opened the window again on its own. And then it started typing, like all on its own. Line by line, he is reading this right now. He finally understands that the house is never empty. I'm not ashamed to admit I nearly fell out of the chair. Then it kept going. He wonders if he should run. He decides to keep reading. I yanked the power cord out of the tower. No effect. The screen stayed on, still glowing, still writing. That's when I noticed the cord wasn't even plugged into an outlet. It went straight into the wall. No plate, no socket, just disappeared into the plaster like it had always been part of the house. I left. I slammed the door shut and got out of that hallway. The light bulb in the room went out as soon as the door clicked closed. I haven't been back in since, but the computer hasn't stopped. Every morning, there's a new page slipped under my bedroom door. Dot matrix printer paper, a same green text. Every page logs what I did the day before. I ate, what show I watched, what I thought about while brushing my teeth, then it started predicting things. He will wake to the creak of the library shelf, resetting. He will be too afraid to investigate. That's supposed to happen tonight, around 3 a.m. I've tried everything. The hallway is gone. The shelf won't budge. It looks completely solid again, like I imagined the whole thing. I even brought over a contractor friend, and there's no sign of any false wall. No draft. No hollow sound behind the wood, nothing. I know how this all sounds. It's like a writing prompt or a creepypasta or whatever. But I promise, I'm not making this up. I'm sitting here writing this, while the clock ticks toward 3 o'clock. And I don't know what's going to happen next. I don't know if the shelf will open again. I don't know if I'll go back in. But I do know one thing: the computer is still writing. Somewhere behind that wall, it's still keeping track of me. And if I'm not the one putting words on the page, who is?
A billionaire tried to steal my grandma's house. I fought back and won. Here's how. Hey Reddit. This happened over the last year, and I finally have closure. I wanted to share it because I know how powerless people can feel when dealing with the legal system, especially when you're up against someone rich, powerful, and used to getting their way. But sometimes, you know how to fight, and who to call. David really can beat Goliath. My grandma, let's call her Lena, is 84 years old. She's stubborn as hell and owns a small 2-bedroom house in a historic neighborhood in our city. She's lived there since 1969. The mortgage has been paid off for decades. She knows every neighbor within 6 blocks. It's her home, and she's always said, "I'm leaving feet first." A few years ago, the neighborhood started changing fast. Coffee shops, rooftop bars, a dog spa. You know the drill. Then came the developers. One in particular stood out. Kellen Roth, a real estate mogul. Trust fund baby turned visionary urban revivalist. You might have seen his name on luxury condo towers. He was buying up the entire block around Grandma, one house after another, offering cash well above market value. Most neighbors took the deal, but not Grandma. When his rep showed up with a generous offer, she said, "No thanks." They came back a month later with a better one. She said, "I'm not moving. Leave me alone." That should have been the end of it. But at WASN, single quotes, T, a few weeks later, she started getting letters from the city. Weird ones. A code violation for yard debris. It was just a single fallen branch. A fine for unauthorized structures. They were referring to the carport that's been there since the 70s. A warning about excess occupancy. She lives alone. Then came notices about fines, then threats of eviction for unsafe conditions. Grandma was confused and scared. She called me crying, asking what non-compliant foundational grading even meant. She showed me the letters. They looked official, but something felt off. Now, here's where I come in. I work as a paralegal for a small but very aggressive real estate law firm. I know how to dig. I know zoning lingo, okay? And I hate bullies. So I started investigating. I requested all the complaints from the city. Almost every one had come from the same IP address and email domain, both tied to a limited liability company or LLC. That LLC. It's owned by a property management firm that's directly connected to Kellen. It's Roth's holding company. That's illegal. It's abusive process. It's harassment. And if forged documents were involved, which they wit could even be fraud. And get this, the city code inspector assigned to Grandma's case. He used to work for that same property group. He'd never disclosed it. That's a massive conflict of interest, but it gets even better. Kellen, Roth's company, had already filed preliminary development plans with the city, plans that assumed ownership of Grandma's lot before she had agreed to sell in their reports to investors. They marked her house as pending acquisition. Arrogant, sloppy, stupid. So I built a file, a full timeline of the harassment records connecting the LLC to Kellen's company public filings, showing they claimed ownership of property. They didn't own code enforcement logs and statements from neighbors, who were also targeted with fake violations. I sent everything to 3 places. A journalist friend at a local housing newsletter, city ethics office, and a non-profit legal aid group that lives for cases like this. 2 weeks later, the story exploded. The article headline was brutal. Developer linked to fake code. Complaints in bid to seize elderly woman's home. It got picked up by local TV. Suddenly, the city was very interested in fixing internal misconduct. The mayor's office released a statement. The inspector was put on leave. A formal investigation launched. Within days, all the violations were voided. The eviction threats disappeared, and then cherry on top, Grandma got a handwritten letter from Kellen Roth himself. It was a half-assed apology dressed in PR nonsense. "We regret the confusion and wish you all the best." She framed it and hung it in her hallway, right under a sticky note that says, "Bite me. But wait, there's more. Once that article dropped, other elderly homeowners in the neighborhood started coming forward. Turns out, Kellen's company had been doing this to multiple people. The city launched a formal inquiry. Lawsuits started. Flying Dot, that legal nonprofit. They helped Grandma file for elder harassment, and now we're pushing for civil damages. And get this, because of the public outrage. The Historic District Board voted to declare Grandma's block a protected zone. New developments now require approval from every single resident. Guess who's the only holdout? That's right. Grandma, if you're up against someone with money and power, don't assume they'll win. Document everything. Ask questions. Learn how the system works. And don't be afraid to make some noise. Because sometimes the truth is enough to bring a giant to his knees. And my grandma, she's not going anywhere.
I matched with a girl on Tinder. She looked familiar. Then I realized she was on a missing persons list. This has been eating at me for weeks. I still don't know what the right thing to do was. I'm not even sure if I want advice. I just need to get it off my chest. Maybe someone else has experienced something even remotely similar. So a few weeks ago I was on Tinder, just mindless swiping like everyone does. I matched with this girl, let's call her Sarah, who had only 2 pictures, no bio, and a location about 20 miles from me. I normally skip these kinds of profiles, but there was something about her face. It felt ... familiar. Not in that we went to the same high school way, but something deeper, like I had seen her before, but couldn't place it. We started chatting. She was surprisingly responsive, kind of funny, kind of shy. I asked basic stuff, where she was from, what she did. She was cagey, said she moved around a lot, didn't mention school or work, said she was just trying to keep things simple. The weird thing was, she kept steering the conversation toward me, like aggressively curious. What do? Do I live alone? Have roommates? What's my schedule like? Ever travel? She wasn't flirty. It felt almost like she was checking boxes. Vetting me, that uneasy familiarity started nagging at me again. I stared at her pictures for a long time, something about the eyes. I don't know what possessed me. But I dragged her photo into Google Images and ran a reverse image search. One of the first results stopped me cold. It was a side-by-side image. The one from her Tinder profile, and another picture where she was smiling with braces and wearing a hoodie. It was from a missing persons listing. She'd been missing for 3 years. From another state, whole different part of the country. Her name wasn't Sarah. At least, it hadn't been back then. I stared at the post. It said she was last seen leaving her high school in 2022. There were rumors she ran away. She would have been 17 when she disappeared. Now she'd be about 20. I didn't know what to think. My heart was pounding and my brain was split between. Holy SHT. Is this real? And you're overthinking this? Coincidence? But I couldn't ignore it, so I confronted her. Not aggressively, just said, hey, this might sound crazy, but you really look like someone I saw on a missing persons site. She didn't reply for over an hour. Then finally she said, I know. That's all she said at first. Then came a string of messages, not panicked, not angry, just calm. She said she was the girl who went missing, that she left home for a reason, that she had been running ever since. She said she's not in danger anymore, but didn't want to be found. She begged me not to report her. Said the situation with her family was complicated, that going back would ruin everything she's built for herself. She ended with, please, I'm not a victim. I'm just trying to live. I didn't know what to say. I didn't report her. I still haven't. I saved the screenshots. I looked up the missing person case again the next day, and it's still open. Her family has been posting every year on the anniversary of her disappearance. There are candlelight vigils, a GoFundMe to raise money for a private investigator. They're still looking, and I have this gnawing guilt in my stomach, because I know. I saw her. I talked to her. I know she's alive. I know she's somewhere close. But what if she doesn't? Want to be found? What if going back means abuse? Trauma? What if I'm the one who ruins her life just because I felt morally obligated to get involved? At the same time, what if I'm wrong? What if she is in danger and just doesn't realize it? What if someone made her say that? We stopped talking a few days after that. She unmatched me, deleted her profile, gone again. I don't know what the right thing was. I still check that missing persons page every few days. Still see her face. I keep wondering if someone else will. Figure it out and do what I didn't. I keep wondering if I'll regret this forever.
I accidentally became the CEO of a defunct startup. Now it's making money again. Hey Reddit, this one's weird. Like, I still don't know if this counts as a success story or a slow-motion identity theft. Either way, I figured you all might appreciate the absolute roller coaster of what started as a joke and somehow turned into me running a snack subscription startup I didn't create, so here goes. Grab a snack. I have a dumb little hobby that occasionally makes me a few bucks buying abandoned storage units at auction. I know. Very Storage Wars, but honestly, it's less glamorous and more dusty, usually filled with broken IKEA furniture and old tax documents. But every now and then, I score something cool vintage stereo gear. Unopened Lego sets. Once even a pallet of brand new phone chargers I flipped on eBay for a couple grand. Back in January, I picked up a unit for $175. Photos showed computer. Monitors what looked like a couple metal racks, some plastic bins. Figured I could at least sell the monitors and call it even. It was local and no one else was bidding much, so I won. When I opened the unit, it was clear it had once belonged to a startup. Posters with a clean pastel-colored logo Neofoodie. A slogan, curated snacks for modern lifestyles. There were a few broken desks, a bunch of branded swag tote bags, enamel pins, t-shirts, even branded moleskins, and a few sealed boxes labeled fulfilled. Then I found the good stuff. There was a rack mount server setup, dusty but still intact hand to laptops, one of which still had a charger plugged in. Out of curiosity, I brought the working one home, figuring I'd wipe it and maybe resell. Except it wasn't password protected. Literally booted into the desktop like it had just been asleep for 2 years. I did a quick dig and realized I had access to a full email inbox, old Slack messages, customer support chats, and an entire Notion workspace. This wasn't just a laptop. It was the brain of a company that had vanished off the face of the earth. I was fascinated. According to the docs I found, Neofoodie had launched around 2017, raised a small seed round, and was part of an accelerator in the Bay Area. Their model was simple. It's curated monthly snack boxes for people with dietary restrictions, gluten-free, vegan, keto, etc. Their branding was slick, their voice very DTC Startup 101. And they even had a few press mentions on TechCrunch and Fast Company. But in late 2019, things went quiet. Customer support requests piled up, the Slack got eerily silent, and the last email in the inbox was from Stripe warning of an expired credit card. My best guess. They ran out of runway, the founders bailed, and everything just stopped, including the website. But here's the kicker. They never shut anything down. The domain was still active AutoAnew FTW. Their AWS server still ran the backend, and their Stripe account still technically worked. So I tweeted this: bought a storage unit and found login access to a dead startup. Should I reboot it as a bit? People loved it. Lots of do IT and revive it as a zombie brand comments. I joked back, Neofoodie, now under new mismanagement. Still, it was just a meme in my head. I had no intention of doing anything serious, but I poked around, updated the landing page with some new copy, and set up the Stripe in test mode. I made a little banner that said, "We're back from the dead. You asked for it, no one did." Then I posted the link to a few subreddits mostly for laughs. Sand called it a night. The next morning, I had 3 orders. Real ones, not fake test charges. People actually paid. Stripe flagged them as legit transactions. One customer even included a note, "Oh my God, I thought you guys were gone. So glad you're back." I panicked. I hadn't even printed a label, let alone sourced any snacks. I didn't even know what used to go into a Neo Foodie box. I was just some guy with a laptop and a bunch of branded stickers. But then I remembered the Notion doc. They called it the Operations Bible. It had everything: old supplier contacts, pricing sheets, box templates, customer retention, email sequences. One doc literally listed top-performing boxes by customer retention. It was like startup archaeology. I messaged a couple of the listed suppliers just to see if any still existed. One wrote back the same day, "Neo Foodie." Wow. Haven't heard that name in a while. You guys ghosted us mid-po, lol. Everything okay? I made up a vague story about a relaunch and asked if they'd be open to working together again. To my surprise, they said yes. Minimum order was 50 boxes. I figured, worst case, I'd eat a lot of gluten-free brownies. I assembled the first run manually in my living room. Bought craft boxes off Amazon, printed labels at Staples. Filled them with the snacks I'd just sourced, and used the leftover branded swag for flair. Each box included a thank you card I made in Canva that said, "You're holding history. Thanks for helping us bring Neo Foodie back from the dead." I sent out 12 boxes. The next week, I got 28 new orders, then 41, then 66. A few went to YouTubers, who posted unboxing videos with titles like, "Dead Startup Sent Me Snacks." Hey, me my. And this company came back to life, and I tried their Box One TikTok, got over 9K views. Sales spiked the next day. So, I formed an LLC. I opened a business bank account. I migrated everything from the old Stripe to my new setup and cleaned up the back end. I hired a designer to update the brand slightly without losing its 2017 CHARM. I now ship 100 boxes a month. Nothing massive. Not world-changing, but profitable. About $6 to $8 per box after costs. I've automated a chunk of the process with Zapier and ShipStation. I've got 3 snack suppliers I rotate between and a print shop that does custom thank you notes and branded inserts. My apartment still looks like a fulfillment center. My girlfriend is deeply confused but supportive. My cat has claimed one of the empty boxes as a throne. I never intended to run a company. I didn't build this brand. But somehow, by stumbling into a storage unit and saying, "Sure, why not?" I've resurrected a startup that Silicon Valley abandoned and made it cash flow positive. I guess that makes me the CEO now?
My parents faked my college degree. I found out 5 years later in a job interview. Throwaway for obvious reasons. This is going to sound fake or overly dramatic. And I honestly wish it were. But it's real. It's my life. And I feel like I'm losing my grip on who I even am anymore. I'm 28. For the past 5 years, I've worked in marketing communications, digital strategy, that kind of thing. Nothing groundbreaking, but I worked my way up from coordinator to manager. Decent salary. Decent apartment, a car I actually own. I never thought I was a genius, but I always thought I was doing okay. I went to a mid-sized private university. Wasn't Ivy League, but respectable. I wasn't the best student. I struggled in math. Failed a statistics class twice, but I was okay in writing heavy courses. I definitely had senioritis my last year. Finals stressed me out. I skipped classes, procrastinated a lot. But eventually, I walked across the stage. My name was called. I shook hands. There are photos. I got a job offer about 3 months after graduating, and that was that. Until last month, I'd been casually looking for a new role, something with growth, better benefits. I landed an interview with a company I've admired for years, nailed the phone screens, crushed the second round task, and they said they were ready to move forward, pending background checks and official documentation, including my college transcripts. No problem. I log on to the university website to request. I get an error saying my credentials don't exist. Weird. I call the registrar's office. They say there's no record of me ever graduating, no degree conferred. Not even a full enrollment history past my 3rd year. At first I thought it was a mistake, a system issue. Was annoyed more than anything. I even asked if there was another person with the same name in the system that might be confusing things. The woman on the phone was polite but firm. I never completed the degree. I never technically graduated. I hung up, confused and sweating, and called my parents. I asked if they remembered anything strange about my final semester. Did I forget to turn in paperwork? Did the diploma ever arrive? My mom went quiet. Then she said, "Honey, maybe it's time we talked about something." My dad took the phone and basically unloaded a truth bomb that's shattered my world ever since. Turns out, I didn't graduate. I dropped out in the last semester, burned out, academically in trouble, and too ashamed to tell anyone. I don't even remember all of it clearly. I think I blocked it out. I stopped going to classes, bombed finals, and quietly faded away without fully processing it when my parents found out. Probably through some kind of final billing or lack of diploma, they panicked. They hired someone to forge transcripts. In a degree, they faked the documents. They printed a diploma. They helped me send out job applications, submitted PDFs with my credentials, and told themselves it was temporary, that I'd go back and finish later. They were giving me a clean slate. Except I never went back. I got hired. I started working. I assumed I had graduated and never looked back. Everything I've done since then, every resume, every onboarding doc, every tax form that listed my education has been based on a lie. A lie I genuinely didn't know I was telling. I asked them why they didn't just tell me. Why they would do something so completely insane behind my back. Their answer? We were trying to protect you. You were lost. You needed help. And we didn't want you to fall behind. My mom even said, "Well, you did grow into it, didn't you? You've done well." I wanted to scream. No, I haven't grown into it. I've just been living someone else's life, one mistake away from disaster. I withdrew from the interview process. I told them I wasn't comfortable moving forward due to personal reasons, and thankfully they didn't ask more. But I can't stop thinking about it. Can't stop spiraling. What happens if my current employer does a background check tomorrow? What happens if a new manager wants to verify something? What if I get promoted and HR looks deeper? Is this even legal? Can I be arrested for this, even if I didn't know? Can I get sued? I saved copies of everything, emails, text messages from my parents, admitting to it, even the fake diploma. I feel like I need to protect myself somehow. But mostly I just feel hollow. I wasn't raised by villains. My parents aren't bad people, or at least I didn't think they were. They're always supportive, if a bit overbearing. They pushed me hard in school, but I think that push turned into panic when I started to slip, and instead of helping me through it, they decided to rewrite reality. I can't even look at my resume now without feeling sick. I don't know what's real. Anymore, I'm not dumb. I've done the work. I've led teams. I've delivered results. But none of it feels earned now. I've been talking to a therapist. She says I'm experiencing something close to imposter syndrome, except in my case, it's partially true. I didn't earn the seat I'm sitting in, and now I have no idea how to move forward. Do I go back and actually finish the degree? Do I come clean to my employer and hope for mercy? Do I scrub my resume and start over? Every option feels like I'm detonating my own life. Anyway, thanks if you read this far. I've never written something like this online before. I just needed to get it out. Maybe someone's been through something similar. Or maybe I'm just the cautionary tale.